Hi, welcome back. I'm back, and this might be the closest gap that I did in making a video, so thank you. You know what, thank you for your support on the last video, because it means a lot to me, and I think that kind of gave me an additional push to make a video sooner rather than later, as I do. Oh, you know what, I completely forgot about my 6 months on testosterone, because it was literally on the New Year's Day. So yeah, here we are. 6 months and 12 days on testosterone. My voice didn't magically drop more. Actually, I think I'm sick. Yeah, at least in my voice. So today I actually wanted to talk to you about how my relationship with my family has evolved over the past 8-10 years since I came out as trans. Came out to my mother when I was 17. I'm 25 now, so my ears are so blocked now. Just one thing that you might want to know is that my mom, my dad, Tony, me, they separated. So now I have, this is my father hand, this is my mother hand. Father remarried, so I have stepmother, father, stepsister. She's a year and a half younger than me. My mother, my stepfather, my half-brother, he's 4 years old, he's just a little baby. My grandmother, uncle here as well, aunt, uncle, little cousin, a lot of cousins, and a nun. My grandmother's sister, yes, also grandma. A living grandma. Had a few of those more, I mean, not grandmas, but grandparents. But only my grandmother there is living, but Grandma Zdravka, I love her, she's great, she prays rosaries for me every day. Thank you, Grandma. I was very boyish when I was a kid, like very boyish, and could really only identify with boys. I was what one might call nowadays a tomboy, and yeah, I was accepted even in my family. From my mother's side, they used to always joke, you know, that I switched sexes just before I was born, that I was supposed to be a boy and stuff like that. Anyway, when I came out, it wasn't funny anymore, so jokes on them, or jokes on me. So yes, looking at my notes, my first 11 years of my life, I did not understand sex. I did not understand, sex as in genitalia. I did not understand gender identity. I didn't care. I just wanted to play and do things that I wanted to do, which I was able to. 11 to 15 or 10 to 11 14, I was definitely repressing my gender identity, repressing any knowledge of trans people. When I was 15, I started coming out to my friends, and when I was 17, finally I came out to my mother. So my mother didn't react well at all. There was a lot of shame there. There was a lot of fear for me. How am I going to be treated in the society? Will I be accepted and loved? Will I ever find love? But frankly, I think there was a good bit of shame of what will other people say. Well, what other people said, I don't know. If anyone said anything to my mother, she didn't tell me. But she didn't react well. She took me to a priest. That was the first thing that she did. She came to me, first there was a good bit of ignoring it, alright? But she decided to bring me to a priest. She actually sat me down and said, please do this for me. And I was just like, okay, let's go to a priest. Sure. So I went to a priest. For her, really, and that was my first experience of being, you know, respected for who I am, and not just, you know, the priest was old and he couldn't tell me much, but he did experience it before. That there was someone before, a few people actually, that came to him with transgender questions. He didn't know them anymore, so he couldn't tell me how they progressed or what happened to them. But what he could give me, and what he did give me, was his time and love, you know, just the acceptance of, I don't know, but this is where you are, and God bless you. And that was great. for me, not for my mother. So she took me to another priest for confession. I went to confession, and that was great. In Croatian language, by the way, you have the pronouns is put in everything, in nouns, verbs. When me talking now, if I say I'm talking, or maybe not that, but anyway, you use pronouns all the time. By the end of the confession, the priest was addressing me in male pronouns. That was fantastic. I needed that, you know. These two priests were the first adults that acknowledged me, that accepted me. It was so important to me because my, like, the experience with my mother wasn't the same, obviously. Anyway, so that was great for me, not so much for my mother, or maybe it was, I don't know. But she decided to bring me to, I mean, her attitude didn't change towards me, unfortunately. So maybe it wasn't enough. She brought me then to a spiritual retreat on Pentecost. So the Holy Spirit would do his magic on me, and let me tell you, he did. We went to that retreat, and it was the first time in my life that I experienced God's love for me as his son. And when, you know, I brought up the question of transition, because I knew then for a few years already that I needed, you know, physical transition. It just wasn't working. It was a great suffering for me, like way before testosterone. And that was the time, like, everything was green. I had this inner experience of everything was green. It was like traffic lights. And I just discerned, I didn't discern, but I understood it in my heart, deep in my heart, that God was, you know, okay with me transitioning. But I suppose that wasn't the best, because then my mother took me to a psychiatrist. Yeah, and not a gender psychiatrist, but a psychiatrist that would end up using expressions like, what would God say to me changing my body? And that's when I just said goodbye. I was like, I met two priests and I've been to a spiritual retreat, and nobody told me, well, what would God say to you changing your body? Yeah, the psychiatrist did. And I was just like, I didn't come here. I came here for you to help me, because, like, that's the way that I have to go anyway. Please give me a diagnosis. But she's like, what would God say? And I was like, you know what would God say? I'm pretty sure God prefers me alive. So goodbye. Never went back there. I did get angry about that. So nothing worked for my mother in that sense. I was not magically turned into her daughter. I was still her son. She couldn't accept it. So for the next 2 years, that was just ignore, avoid, and a little bit of, you know, trauma here and there of, I will not be enabling you. And that was great, you know, that was absolutely great. So just before I turned 20, I had this massive breakdown, ended up in the hospital. I won't go into it. And I think that's actually when my mother thought, well, I see, but it seems that something is happening, you see. We've been through this conversation for years. He still hasn't changed, and now he almost died. So perhaps there is something more there, and perhaps he does need my help. Obviously, things should have been different. My mother should have known more, you know, not just by herself. I mean, it wasn't only my mother who let me down, it was just the society and everybody that just wouldn't acknowledge trans people's existence. But that was when my mother, you know, started changing. I don't want to say changed, because it took next few years for her to completely come on board. She did, but that's when she started. Stay safe, seek support. I didn't know how to access support at that time. I didn't know who to talk to. Even my friends, you know, out of a whole group of friends that I had, like from when I was 11. Only one of them accepted me and saw me as her then male friend. Paula, love you. So that's how my mother came to accept me. My little brother, as I said, he's 4 years old, and as far as I know, he's only ever known me as his brother. So thank you, mother. And the message of the story with my mother is that, you know, your parents, if they didn't accept you from the start, most probably they will accept you in the future. You just gotta stay patient, and, you know, and trust, and stay patient, and trust, and do your best, and talk, and educate, and try to keep your cool, because you don't want to do it, you know, you can't force them to change before they can, and you don't want to break, you know, trying to change them, and just kind of live your life and seek support. Surround yourself with people who love you, and the rest will fall into place. Regarding my father, I am no contact with my father at the moment, because he couldn't accept my transition, and he couldn't accept my Catholic transition either. So yes, now not only am I his son, I'm his Catholic son. So unless he experiences some profound conversion of heart, those are two things that I don't think he appreciates at the moment at all. Maybe he does, I don't know. Haven't heard him for the last 3 years. What can you do? My mother's side of the family accepted me, sort of. Had an unpleasant experience on my birthday, last birthday, but when I called them for Christmas, it did feel that they went out of their way, you know, to address me by my right name and pronouns. So thank you, Jesus. That was cool. I did tell my mother. I kind of snapped, complained for days, but I didn't complain to them. I complained to my mother, and I got my mother to talk to them, because after 10 years, you know, okay, for them it's less than that, but after so long of trying to educate my family, you know, and get them to understand and just accept me as who I am, I just couldn't. So I told my mother to do it all for me, and I think she did. So thank you, mother. See, things change, you know. You might not get along with your mom or dad at the moment, but in the future they might be the ones fighting your trans battles with the rest of your family. So that's good. My father, no. My stepmother was great to me. I don't hear from her now because it's a complicated situation. A bit sad about that, but I think it might be how it needs to be, you know, especially considering I had to cut contact with my biological father, and all my friends from the beginning that I talked that wouldn't really accept me, everybody came around now, more or less, from the people that are actually important to me, you know, in the family. All your family should be important. Sure. So yes, so here we are. Things will get better, and things do get better. Everybody says that, and it's true. And I'm sorry if you're in the phase of your life now that you have to wait and be patient. You have to wait for those things to get better, but things will get better. I promise you. And you'll make it. You'll make it. Don't worry about it. Just trust, and trust that God will put people into your life when you need them and when they need you. And just, you know, focus on the people that are around you and that you have. And if you need anyone to talk to, I'm here. I will be more than happy to listen to you. And, you know, if you want me to give you an advice or two, I promise I'm better at writing than I am at talking. That's everything. I know it was mostly about my mother, but that's kind of, you know, my relationship with my mother was most important. Anyway, thank you for listening to me, and I hope this video is a bit better. Thank you for your support, and you know what? Subscribe if you'd like to see more of me. Thank you. Have a great day. God bless you. Or sex at that time. I'm sorry. I closed my bedroom door. But Mia is meowing. But you have to be good. Why are you meowing laying down? I don't understand. You won't come in or not? Boys, can you hear that? Explain yourself. Thank you.